Now, the University of Miami has returned to being a test-required institution. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. Here's the headline: Standardized Test Score Policy Reinstated for Fall 2026 Undergraduate Admissions Cycle. The University of Miami will require standardized test scores beginning in fall 2026, ending the temporary test optional process put in place during the pandemic. The University of Miami will once again require prospective students to include standardized test scores as part of their undergraduate admissions application, beginning with students applying to enter the university in the fall 2026 semester. So again, to translate this, if you are a student in high school, in the high school class of 2026 or later, this applies to you. This affects you. If you want to start college or university in August 2026 or later, you're going to have test scores, and hopefully good test scores, for the University of Miami, which is in Coral Gables, Florida. Quote, the test score policy was paused in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The university is reinstating the test score policy to provide an additional data point as part of its holistic review process. Therefore, most high school students, with some exceptions, will need to submit an SAT or ACT score with their admissions application. Now, the exceptions have not yet been shared, by the way. This is Craig speaking again. We have no idea what the exceptions are, but there apparently will be some exceptions. Along with a student's high school record and other factors, the SAT or ACT test results help shape the review process of a student's application. Quote, while we recognize the value of changing the policy during the pandemic, we have decided to go back to including this information as our data show that standardized test scores can be a predictor of academic success, end quote, said Guillermo Willie Prado, Interim Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. Again, translation, University of Miami has discovered that water is wet. Quote, however, these standardized test scores are only a complementary piece of the puzzle, Prado pointed out. Quote, we consider a wide array of information in our admissions decisions and rely heavily on a student's high school performance and grade point average, along with community involvement and many other factors, end quote. The university's undergraduate admissions counselors will still use a holistic process to review each applicant, carefully considering and contextualizing a student's academic record, extracurricular activities, including community involvement, and work personal statement and test scores, says Nate Crozer, Assistant Vice President of Undergraduate Admissions and Marketing. In reinstating the test score requirements on applications, the university joins other Association of American Universities, AAU, partner institutions, which began requiring test scores on their applications again recently, including Brown University, Dartmouth College, the Johns Hopkins University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and University of Texas at Austin. So what does this all mean for you? Well, what it means for you is that in 2025, Columbia University in the city of New York, an Ivy League and ostensibly elite institution, is going to have standardized testing requirements associated with their first-year application process that are not as strict as those that exist at University of Miami in Coral Gables, Florida. And that's wild. If you had told anyone in 2000, the year 2000, 25 years ago, that would be the case, that University of Miami would have stricter and therefore higher standardized testing requirements than Columbia University in the city of New York, they would have laughed in your face and shown you the door. But that is the clown world we are living in today. Now, congratulations to Miami. They got, a press release out there which basically puts their name in the august company of institutions like JHU, Johns Hopkins, or MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Dartmouth. And they should be proud to return. They should have done it a few years ago when MIT did it. They should have done it well before, considering they're in Florida, and every state school in Florida requires the SAT or ACT because of Bright Futures and other stuff associated with their standards in Florida. But again, mainly Bright Futures because the scholarship is predicated upon it. If anything, they're really behind at University of Miami in getting themselves together compared to other institutions like UF and FSU in the state of Florida. But in the scheme of things nationally, University of Miami should be proud. They have returned to standardized testing as part of their holistic review before schools like Penn and Columbia and Princeton, before Princeton. And that's wild. Again, those other institutions may at some point announce, maybe they'll do it tomorrow, that they're going back to test required. But the fact that University of Miami stuck its neck out there and actually went back to being test required does deserve a compliment. Not to say that standardized test scores are the end all be all. I want to make that very clear. I mean, you probably have watched other videos of mine and you may get the sense that I am a big proponent of considering standardized test scores in the admissions process, and I am. However, I don't believe everything should rise and fall just based off of the test scores. I actually do believe in holistic review. And what I mean by holistic review is that you should look at standardized test scores. You should look at grades. You should look at the rigor of the curriculum. You should look at the extracurricular output. You should look at the family circumstances of the student and see what that student has expected of him or her at home on a daily basis. You should look at the whole picture, the essays, the resume, the letters of recommendation, the high school profile. You should look at it all. And that you should not actually look at standardized test scores as different in terms of importance for one student versus another student. Unfortunately, Dartmouth and other schools that have returned to being test required are looking at standardized test scores equitably. They are not looking at them objectively or in a standardized fashion. And it sounds as if from this press release that University of Miami sort of wants to have its cake and eat its too. They want to sort of do that as well, but they're not overtly saying it like Dartmouth did when they went back to being test required as the first Ivy League institution that did so. They were very clear about the fact that they were not going to review test scores the same for every applicant. University of Miami is sort of saying that, but they're not as saying it as overtly. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out. But of course, I mean, University of Miami is not nearly as selective as MIT or Caltech, some other schools that have gone back to being test required. So they always had easier bar to clear as it related to test scores, and they still will have that. There will be reasons you can get into University of Miami far beyond one's test score. Let's just put it that way. That's always been the case. That will continue to be the case. But I think it's really important if you're going to say you're actually reviewing applicants holistically, that you review them holistically. And preventing yourself from seeing their test scores is what test optional or test blind is and was. Now, Miami was never test blind. Caltech, the UCs, they're test blind, they were. Caltech has gone back to being test required. But the UCs are, to this very moment, test blind, test free. If you have a 1600 on your SAT or a 36 on your ACT, that is an amazing score that you should be able to share as part of your admissions process. UC Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara, UCLA, UC San Diego won't review it, won't consider it. Miami would always have considered it, but now they're going to require it. And they're going to require it also of the kids who are getting an 1100 or 26 on their SAT and or ACT. And that's an important data point to contextualize the real quality of the actual applicants, i.e. the students who are applying to your school. If you're really going to claim to be an institution of higher learning, you do want to know what the students have learned. And a standardized test score is the only standardized way to really assess what the students have learned. And so any institution that has forbidden itself from reviewing standardized test scores in the admissions process is not truly serious about having students who all can perform at the same level or know the same types of stuff. Any institution that is test optional is not really serious about isolating for academic excellence in its admitted students. And so I do congratulate University of Miami for going back to this. And again, they've done it before. A lot of other perceived elite or prestigious institutions have done so. So congratulations. Again, they did have the internal state pressure of all the other public schools in Florida never going test optional, basically. And so that couldn't have hurt and swaying them sooner, for instance, than schools like USC or Emory or WashU or Tulane or Wake Forest, which of course went test optional well before the pandemic and will never go back to test required because they have used test optional for what all the other schools used test optional for during the pandemic, which is to diversify the student body the way they want to diversify the student body. To heck with academic excellence, to heck with all your students being able to perform at a similar level academically or knowledge output level like a standardized test score would capture. All the schools have put that priority to the side that have gone test optional, and they are prioritizing other things, which they are officially entitled to, as long as they're not doing so in an unconstitutional manner or discriminatory manner, which of course we know UNC and Harvard were doing. And may still be doing, but they definitely were doing because they were ruled as doing so at the Supreme Court of the United States almost 2 years ago. We will keep our finger on the pulse of this drama, this saga, this soap opera that is test optional admissions. But the story for today, again, is congratulations to University of Miami. They will get stronger students as a result of this. They still will accept some weaker students as well for other reasons, maybe sports, maybe a development case here or there, maybe a child of alumni, all different reasons they may be accepting students, but they at least will have the data point of knowing what the student brings to the table in terms of standardized test output, which is valuable information to have if you really are considering students holistically and want to have a student experience that is beneficial to both the student body at large, but also to individual students. And again, a lot of that is lost often in conversations about should a school be test optional, should it not? It's all about how can we keep as many options open for students in terms of what colleges they get into. It has not been as much the conversation about what's in the best interest of the school long-term, both reputationally, but also in terms of the quality of the curriculum that can be offered, but also what's in the best interest of the students who are getting accepted test optionally, who actually have SAT or ACT scores that are 300, 400 points or 5-7 points lower than the average student in the school. Is that really in the best interest of that student who just got accepted? No, I don't think it is. As we wrap things up, I want to remind you that you don't have to settle for the free videos alone. As you navigate the college admissions process, get the focused and personalized coaching and expertise you need to achieve your goals. My Smart Sessions meet you where you are in order to take you where you want to go. Meanwhile, if you want proactive support throughout the college application process and want to collaborate with a dedicated expert to submit applications that are simply meticulous, reserve your preferred Simply Meticulous experience as soon as possible. Space is limited due to the time and attention to detail required to pull off these extraordinary coaching experiences. No matter your distinctive objectives, you can achieve them. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, visit my website, which is collegemeister.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. As mentioned previously, if you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the college admissions process, visit my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.